I'm going to demonstrate how I use this wood putty to fill in this sign. So this is cut out of 1/4-inch birch, which I have masked off with peel and stick shelf liner. This is easily removable. It's like, what do they call it? Removable shelf liner, I guess. It's not meant to be permanent. So anyway, this just came off Sparky, and you can see there's a bunch of sooty stuff from the masking burning. I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a wipe with tack cloth, just so it's not gonna get all this color and nastiness into my putty. So as I mentioned on one of my posts on Facebook, Woodwise makes a great trowel-on putty that I know a lot of artisans like to use, and it can come in a powdered form, which is fantastic because it means you can just mix up as much as you want. You can keep the powder, I don't know, basically indefinitely. It won't, you know, solidify or go off, whatever, like sometimes the liquid ones don't last that long. And yeah, you can tint it with paint tints, universal paint tints. So I have, the product I have right now isn't actually the Woodwise. Up in Canada, we haven't been able to get it right at this moment. This is a product called from Bona Pacific, and it's a trowel-on wood putty. Now this one only comes in a liquid, and it comes pre-tinted in several different wood colors. But again, you can tint it with universal paint tints, which I have done with this. So this dries to a kind of a steely, warm charcoal color, I guess, not quite black. And you can see it's basically the consistency of pudding. And it's very smooth. And I've had this in this little yogurt container for a couple of months, and it's totally fine. And I'm just using an offcut of wood, and I'm just gonna go ahead and trowel it right on. So I burned this at 25 inches a second, and I think my power was set to 50, because I didn't care about getting color in the burn, and I didn't need it to be crazy deep. You only need a little bit of depth for this to fill in. You don't want it too deep, otherwise it'll take forever and a day to dry. So it goes on beautifully, just especially with this intricate design around the edge. I'm gonna really press it in and make sure it's filling in and there's no little bubbles in it or anything. Now the beauty of this stuff is you can use it without masking. I typically like to use this on really rough wood, because then when you sand the wood afterwards, well, I'll grab a piece and I'll just show you. When you sand it afterwards, you get this really nice, aged, rustic look. Yeah, so that's all there is to that. I'm gonna scrape off the excess, make sure it's fairly smooth over the lettering. Yeah, but as I was saying, if you use it on wood, when it's tinted a really dark color like this, there is potential that it will slightly stain the color of your wood. Why don't we? Here's a scrap. I'm gonna slide out of the way. Here's a little scrap of birch plywood. I'm just gonna throw some on here and see how much this ends up actually staining the wood. Once it's dry, we'll sand it off, we'll check it out. Now, a light color is not gonna be as bad. It's actually the tint that's staining into the wood, but it should mostly sand off. Oh yeah, I said I was gonna do a rough piece. Hang on, I'll have a scrap here kicking around. This is a circle sawn. It's really rough, really rough. But I really like doing signs with this. I have some pictures that I can post in this video as well. So there we go. Scrape it on there. That's all there's to it. Now it's gonna take, well, depending on humidity and temperature. In my workshop, it typically takes a couple hours for this to dry. Usually I do these projects at the end of the day. I just leave them overnight and I sand them in the morning. All right, it's been a couple of hours and this stuff is pretty dry. I think if I tried to dent it with my fingernail, I probably could, but since we're not sanding this one, I'm gonna go ahead and peel the mask off and you can see how it looks. And this is the reason that I hate masking. There's like zillions of tiny bits all in this part, and that's gonna really suck to have to get off. This is the part where I babble about the shelf liner and how fantastic it is as masking, which I feel is a moot point because in fact, this was a horrible job and I do hate masking and I never mask. I only did it because I didn't want to run the risk of my stuff staining the wood, which it wouldn't have. So don't ever do this. Just go ahead and use the wood putty and then sand it all off. In the end, I had to sand it anyways, and then it made a bigger mess because it got dust all over everything and it was wretched. That's all I have to say about that. But if we zoom in here, then you can see there is no bleeding whatsoever. It's really come out nice. Oh, that's actually where the letters burnt across each other because I had them a little too close together. And I set the scan interval for this. I set it at 0.005. Usually I do 0.003 if I need a really nice intricate burn. But since I knew I was filling this, it was okay if it was a little tiny bit jiggity jaggedy. The very, very edges are, you can see a tiny bit jiggity jaggedy, but I mean overall, when you look at the whole thing, it looks really smooth, really sharp edges, no bleeding, no roughness. And this is, it's still a tiny bit indented from the wood, which is fine, I think. You can see it's nice and smooth, even color. I really like this product for this. So, speaking of that, here's our piece of birch. This is just some scrap birch plywood I had. I'm gonna quickly sand this, and I'm gonna quickly sand this rough piece so you can see what those look like. We'll see how clean it comes, if it stains this piece of birch at all. And then you can see the rustic look that I get from using this really, really rough lumber. I'll do that in high speed, so it's not quite so boring. Okay, so as you can see, this birch plywood sanded off completely clean. There's not even a trace of the wood filler, not a trace of color, nothing. I just used my favorite DeWalt palm sander. I got a really rough grit on here. Let's see, I'm not even sure what it is. It's probably 80 grit. It makes it go really quickly. But yeah, this wood is really nice and smooth. I can't feel at all, like it's not like I had to take it down so far that there's a dent now or anything. It's just really nice. If I had had lettering on there and then sanded off that excess, like without masking, it would have been totally fine, totally clean and nice. And this is the rough cut wood. This is how it's come out with this rustic look. You can go over this now with a stain. I brought a little bit of this Timber Pro clear coat just to show you what it would look like, how it just pops when you put a little bit of clear on there. It's just really nice. The color deepens up a little bit. But yeah, if you go over it with Americana is a really nice color, a colored stain. It's a really nice brownish, rich shade that looks beautiful on this rustic look.